Welcome, chess friends. We're about to see round number 7, and actually the finest result and probably the finest game that occurred for me in this tournament. I was able to defeat here a very young, talented international master, Chen. So let's jump into the game. This was a chaotic attack, which really started to crumble a little bit, and myself on the defensive was able to land a counter punch. So I'm playing with the black pieces. So we have an open Sicilian. I favor these type of e6 variations. And here he chooses kind of the main line. Some games go with lines with c4. Dangerous move is bishop d3 right away, and you can still choose from there. He goes with knight c3, queen c7, and bishop e2. I had already seen he had played some games in this line as well. Decided to mix it up a little bit. Here, typical move would be like knight f6 or b5. But I chose to play here knight f6, bishop c5. Right there was the more non-traditional move. And here, my opponent took 20 minutes out of the 80 that we're allotted for the first 40 moves in the game. You have 80 minutes. So 20 minutes is absolutely irresponsible, in my opinion, to take that much time on any move. And he played knight b3. That's a move you would probably play in a bullet game, but if you played bishop e3 or really any move just quickly, it would probably be better than 20 minutes. So very dangerous, and that does come back later on as time pressure plays a factor, as it seemed to in nearly every game this tournament. That 80 minutes for 40 moves, 2 minutes per move, essentially, is really not enough, I would say, in my opinion, and every game seems to have an element of rapid chess to it. Bishop a7, typical in other lines as well, keeping an eye on this diagonal, the king. Really, at least you're forced to play this move, which he does, but otherwise you're really just not moving the f-pawn, or you're not able to play bishop e3. So this bishop is well placed here instead of the traditional e7 square. d6, f4, kind of the point of king h1, you'd imagine. Castles, and bishop d3, another move he took quite a bit of time, moving the bishop for a second time, almost kind of admitting that he had misplayed this opening. And again, overall, we've played 11 moves here, knight c6. Black has won the opening battle. I already felt well about my position, healthy, and the situation on the clock was really good. I knew what kind of game we were in for. I've played this type of game many times where white just goes all in for the attack, and I actually like the position of being able to punch back or that counter-attacking. It gives you chances. That's one way to beat strong players. You have to really walk a tightrope, but to invite an attack, so to speak, with certain openings, and then counter-punch and strike back to win. So a3, really, I think knight b4 is essentially the threat. That's just a trade, but you can imagine this bishop is absolutely critical to the attack. So if we get to play knight b4 and take it, that is a very good trade for black, as well as getting rid of a bishop for a knight, leaving black with the bishop pair. So a3, that's a benefit to black. b5, and that not only is the traditional bishop to b7 move coming, but also b5. And again, kind of renewing that idea of knight capturing the bishop on d3, slowing the attack or even ending the attack. So queen f3, bishop to b7, all natural moves here. Equal position, but maybe black has equalized or done well. Okay, you can feel the danger here, and an interesting moment where I played b4. Not really scared of the attack just yet, as this threat is pretty serious. He played knight e2, and then the moment g6. Actually, probably the first real inaccuracy of the game, had been quite equal, but I think white now is doing well. Perhaps a5, but this is an engine suggestion, but I really couldn't bring myself to playing and allowing e5. Very human fear of this move. You see that opens the bishop and queen. So let's see. Still, there's the knight defending it, but black really is hanging on by a thread, it feels like. Here, knight e5, just fearless. And on rook f6, of course, the threat of checkmate on the next move. Then we don't take the rook, but instead take the bishop. Black is clearly better here, but I didn't really take this seriously or look too deeply. So maybe a good lesson for me as well. Just understanding, hey, even when something looks scary, if you're winning material, you should definitely look at it. And I do typically follow that rule, but here allowing e5 just seemed like a little too much. So didn't go that route, went instead with the much safer g6, engine disapproves. Bishop d2, I like this simple move. Developing another piece, connecting your rooks, bringing the bishop into the game, and the pawn perhaps can just be taken. Good, simple, natural move. Pawn takes a3, and he plays bishop c3. Again, I like this move. And for these couple moves, I feel like he was slowly starting to outplay me the way that strong players do. The bishop now goes from being dormant on c1 to perhaps one of his best attacking pieces. This is a very well-placed bishop now, and I really should have done something to avoid this. So knight h5. Not all in all too terrible. There's no danger of any type of sacrifice or anything just yet, but you can feel this bishop has really become a dominant piece. g4. Engine just giving the very simple rook a3, and white is slightly better. When I came back to the board and saw g4 had been played, I was quite happy and excited. What kind of a move could give me real chances to even win this game is a very dangerous move like that. Look at these two bishops just cutting the board in half. Very happy to see this. And even though there is, you see a pawn and a knight in the way, those can quickly get out of the way with a series of chess tactics combination. So happy to see g4. We did in between move capture here. That puts one pawn in our pocket. Notice a move like pawn takes knight. Then we play pawn takes rook. Let's say he captures with the bishop. We've just won in exchange. We took a rook, he took a knight. And probably a number of good moves here, but engine giving e5 as kind of just killing off that diagonal and the attack altogether. Black is winning. So essentially, what does that mean? Pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn. We put one pawn in our pocket. White has 5, black has 6. That means, again, it's a tense position. So one pawn might not make a difference. This is kind of a someone's getting checkmated type of game. But if there's an opportunity to give back material, let's say in exchange, I have to sack an exchange, one pawn in your pocket kind of lightens the load or eases that sacrifice a little bit. If there's a chance to sack an exchange, you have one extra pawn, or let's say there's some 2 pawns for a piece, then you'd have 3 pawns. So that's what that really does. It gives you a little bit of credit in your pocket. So knight g7, fianchetto the knight. And g5, this is actually the, venture to say, losing move. My opponent was kind of explaining in the game he wanted some queen h6, rook f3 type plan, but I think a little too aggressive. Again, one of these counter strikes in the center, e5, d5, they're all really floating around. And notice even moves like a knight jumping to f5 is possible because there's so much danger on these two diagonals. It's really remarkable that these bishops from literally as far away as can be are just affecting the game so much without even moving. And they don't ever have to move. They just sit there and really just spying on that king from all the way across the board. A beautiful team of bishops for black here. E5, again, aimed at blunting this bishop, as well as chipping away at the center. You can see some files and diagonals potentially opening up. Knight G3, Knight B4. Kind of back to our old plan of trying to trade. This also really opens this diagonal, so there's an immediate pin there. And the threat of knight takes, and then our queen invading, for example, to c2 would be a dangerous fork of the two minor pieces. Really a dangerous situation here, and black in charge. White also with a big time problem just starts to go wrong. And really 4 not optimal moves in a row here. So we just had, let's see, G5, question mark. Knight G3, inaccuracy. Rook C1, question mark. And then Queen B6, the threat is to play knight takes, pawn takes, and then this knight on B3 is hanging. Notice you can't really move it because the bishop also hanging. Loose pieces drop off. So we had question mark, inaccuracy, question mark, and then another question mark. 4 moves in a row with really poor decisions. And after capture, removing the defender. Of course, if rook takes that, then queen takes knight. Really, black is just plain winning. Time pressure really does a number on even the strongest players. It's just difficult to overcome. And in a complex position, I really believe, black had just as much pull here, was a very dangerous and sharp position for both sides. And with time ticking down and the tension of the moment, it's very hard to play accurate moves. Almost hard to tell who's defending. Move to move could be the storyline is changing. So knight e3, but I knew this game was in the bag. This knight is very secured by queen and bishop. This makes the knight under attack. This knight, behind the knight is the bishop. And notice that our bishop and queen are also looking at a checkmate idea. So this rook, for example, moves up. There's danger on g1 of checkmate. So bishop a3, that just gives a free piece. Engine also giving e takes f4, but I just couldn't resist taking in the free piece. Queen takes b3, bishop takes d6. That hits the rook. We are a full piece ahead and an extra pawn. Remember, another pawn snatched on c2. So rook f c8. No need to let him take that, although we'd still be winning. But any trades are in black's favor. The back rank will become weak. There's still these bishops just slicing through the board. Rook f1. No, do not take that. Notice your queen is hanging. But a simple offer of a queen trade. It benefits the player who's really defending to trade. Right? There's some danger left, so good trade to black's side. And it also favors the player who's ahead in material. So black has 2 really good reasons to be trading here. Plus the bishop is threatened, so just forcing a trade. And that really seals the deal. There's not much fight left. These bishops didn't make one move. And just with these lasers across the board, really did a number on white's position. All hidden in the variation. So, excuse me, I said they didn't make one move. But bishop c6 I thought was just a safe, solid move. We're up a piece. Don't do anything silly, Chris. Bishop takes e5, and the final move in the game here was knight g4. Time still a factor in the game. We're only on move 30, but my young opponent resigned here. Really a fun game to play. I really like that storyline of a chess game where white typically attacks first and then gets the counter punch. with sturdy defense. I have won many games like this and kind of like that position in chess. So that's really the finest game that I played. Defeating an international master. Again, last game we drew, and up next, another international master. So really was feeling good going into the last day. We had 4.5 out of 7. And definitely getting another strong pairing with the white pieces, which is great. So stay tuned for that next game. But this one, if you're a Sicilian player or you like this type of strategy, then definitely want to rewatch this one and try to figure out how you can do and apply those lessons yourself. Okay? Very good job. I really appreciate everyone watching. Definitely, if you want to leave a comment or tell me some thoughts about the game, something you noticed, then please do so. Really appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone.